Welcome to the Right Now Show. I'm Judy Saxon.
And I'm Charlie Ridner. This is the show where we put the emphasis on writers, writing,
And the arts. And I must ask, Charlie, are you leaving for a safari after the show?
I'm planning to.
Oh, I love it. We've got a great show today.
We do. Why don't we get right to it?
Let's.
I want to talk about our new guest. She is Taryn Huff, and she is a filmmaker, and she is an actress. Let's introduce her by showing a clip.
Good.
Roll it.
Hey.
Yeah?
In here. The mustard is talking to you.
Okay, sure. Why not?
So, what are you doing?
I was looking for something to eat.
Oh, right, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, cool. Don't mind me. So listen. I'm looking for a roommate. You'd get the entire top shelf.
You live in my refrigerator.
Okay, no, hey, cool. I don't want to make this weird or anything.
I'm gonna get something to eat from the pantry.
Tell Marco I say hi. That's a Chips. He's a good guy.
And I want to know, Taryn. Hi there.
Hello.
Hi, welcome.
We're going to learn more about you, but why did you choose mustard over the mayonnaise?
It's the tangiest condiment, Charlie. Clearly it would be the sassiest
It is.
and the best freeloader of all of the condiments in your refrigerator.
And you did that little animation with the mouth speaking, huh?
I did, yeah. I actually shot the whole thing by myself. I set the camera up. I did everything. I did the animation in After Effects.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
We want to know a little about your background. You're a California girl and you got hooked on movies at a very young age?
I am, yeah. Born and raised in Southern California. My parents are both natives as well. And my mom would take me to the theater every single weekend. We would go and see movies. And
Okay.
I probably saw some films that weren't super age appropriate looking back at it. One that comes to mind, I remember I saw The Hand That Rocks the Cradle when I was probably 7 or 8, which is not, but it was fine,
You survived
no
the
bad
experience.
effects, yeah. But I think it just started my love of movies, though. I mean, we would literally go to the theater every single weekend and see a new film. And we would always see a new one. I don't really remember seeing any duplicate films. We never saw anything twice.
So what was that comedy clip about and what was it for?
That was just a sketch I wanted to do for my comedy reel. It's just kind of good to update that with some new stuff. And so many times as an actor, it's difficult to get things that are appropriate for you or that work for what you're trying to do. So just kind of wrote it and shot it, and my agent liked it, so added it to the reel.
So basically, though, you're doing documentary films now.
Yeah, so I started doing narrative short films. Started as an actor, I should say, doing commercials and things like that.
And some very big commercials. Tell us some of it.
I've been in commercials for Sony, T-Mobile. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Microsoft, yeah.
Oh,
so
wow.
some big ad campaigns.
Yeah.
I just had one for CDW aired that was directed by Gray Koletsky, which he directed I, Tonya and a lot of really big movies and Lars and the Real Girl. So that was really, really fun being on set because it was like a real director. And it felt different. Like you could tell this guy directs features.
Yeah.
This is different.
Wow. So you go up to Los Angeles for the auditions?
Yeah, so go up there for auditions and shoot that. And the CDW commercial aired, I believe, last year. I don't think it's airing right now, though. But so just started acting and just wanted to kind of do more with my career, and very naively thought I'd get into filmmaking and bought a camera. And this was before YouTube, so you did not have the ability to watch videos or learn anything. Everything came from a book. So went to the bookstore, bought books on how to edit, and
that is amazing.
Yeah, just completely taught myself how to edit. So I'm sure my first films were not fantastic. I'm sure my parents loved them, but I'm sure they were not great. But just grew from each one and just tried to make the next one better and better and keep growing and teaching yourself, and taught myself how to animate. And
let's look at one of the trailers. This is from a movie called Old Mrs. Jenkins. Let's take a look at that.
Let me tell you a scary story. Old Mrs. Jenkins.
Mrs. Jenkins.
Wow, well, tell us about that film and what's it doing?
Yeah, so Old Mrs. Jenkins, I love horror movies. I just do. I love horror movies and documentaries. It's a funny mix. And I specifically love horror movies from the 80s. They were kind of silly and campy. There was something always lighthearted about them. I feel like horror movies now sometimes can be a little almost mean-spirited, and it's all about the gore and stuff that I'm not into. But 80s just had this fun kind of vibe to it. And so I made this with a friend, Thomas Norman, who lives in New Jersey. We co-wrote it and co-directed it together, and we just wanted to make a fun horror movie that reminded us of the movies that we grew up with.
Welcome, Jeannie.
Oh,
Hi, Jeannie.
thank you. Hi, Charlie. Hi, Judy.
And do you know how to cook too?
I do.
I figured as well.
Yeah, I'm a good cook too.
Wow.
Yeah, it's good to
Full
see you.
disclosure, I know Jeannie from our video club.
Yes,
and
yeah, I do
Team
too.
One, and she's I guess a co, or you are facilitating
right.
the Video One, which is the production company
Yes.
of the video
Yeah.
club. So
Yeah.
welcome.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Well,
Good to
Thanks
have
for
you.
having me. It's fun to be here.
I have to tell you, you made a short video called, well, tell us.
It's called Jeannie's Makeup Moment.
It's
Yes.
brilliant. I laugh so. It is equal to anything you see on primetime television. And I see this
yes.
this statuette here, so
Yes.
that's what you
Yes.
won for. Oh, yeah. Well,
I agree, Judy. I laughed my head off when I saw it.
Good morning. This is Jeannie Mayer, and I'd like to welcome you to Jeannie's Makeup Moment. We're here today to improve our looks, ladies. You know how men, they just get up and they just brush their hair and run out the door. What are they? We need to work a little bit harder than that. We need a first aid makeup kit to beautify us, and we have ours with us today, and we are going to use it. Let's start off with foundation. Now you need some foundation to really just hide all those wrinkles and crinkles and kind of smooth everything out. Yes, here we go. We're gonna just squish that in there, and we're gonna apply it to our cheek. The cheek, good, the cheek, and the chin, good, beautiful. Yeah, smooth it out, just so silky, smooth, just lovely. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Oh, it's fabulous. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. Okay, now you look a little bland, you look a little pasty. So to take that pastiness away, we're going to use some blush. Yes, my grandma used to use her lipstick, but those are the olden days girls. Now we actually have blush that we're going to use. So let's try that now. We're going to get our cheeks all beautiful. Yes. Oh, isn't that nice? So pretty. So much better. Oh, just stand there. All right, yes, fabulous. Okay. It just makes you look alive, makes you look youthful. Yes, that's enough. Thank you. Now, for the next one that we're going to do, I think we should apply our mascara. Now, your eyes aren't going to be very pretty unless you can see your eyelashes. So, here's our mascara. Yes, I don't know what the problem is, why I can't get it open. Here it is. Okay, go ahead and apply the mascara. Oh, that's close enough. Yes, good. Oh, that's so pretty. Yes, try to put that back there. Okay. Oh, good. Okay, we've got the mascara. All righty, then we want to apply our lipstick. All right, choose a good color for you girls, but make sure it's not too blah. You don't want to look blah. You want to, no, that's the mascara. This, here's the lipstick. Okay, oh, good, perfect. Let's not break the lipstick. Oh, yes, there it is. We've got it. So then you want to apply it on your lips. Put it on your lips. No, the lips. I don't know what's wrong with me today. I can't get my own lipstick on. Okay, let's try that again. Go for the lips. Ooh, here to the ooh. Ooh. Make sure you don't get it on your teeth. Oh. I got on my tooth. Thank you so much. And that's it. Don't I look prettier than when I got here? I want to thank you so much for joining me today in Jeannie's Makeup Moment. See you next time. Bye-bye. Good job. Okay.
I have to ask you, how did it come about? I mean, was it a collaborative effort that you put your heads together, or did you write the whole thing, or?
Oh, well, it's a short story, Judy. First of all, my friend Cheryl Martin, she says, you know what we should do? We should do this funny thing where, you know, somebody stands behind you and they're the hands and you talk. She goes, oh, it's hilarious. And I thought, oh, come on. That sounds like high school to me. I go, well, let me think about it. So now I really like Cheryl. We're really good friends. And I said, well, okay. So we just got together and Betsy Martin set up the camera, and it was just all ad lib. It was just all off the cuff.
It was ad lib?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It was
I could tell because
just off the cuff. You know?
I figured if you had one hand, you could find the lipstick and hand it to the other hand, but you didn't. It was just like, you know.
What is human and organizational systems? What are they?
Well, it's a combination. My master's degree was in human development throughout the lifespan, and human and organizational systems is basically working with people in an organization. The work that I was doing in the city of Pasadena was perfect because it was helping people be trained on the job. You know, their onboarding experience, what is the job description, what training will they need, all of the compliance training. We did ethics training and the sexual harassment training.
And what about how the
leadership
groups
training.
get along?
All of that.
Dynamics of
Motivation.
groups.
Yes, group dynamics. All is all about group dynamics. How do people get along in organizational environments?
A lot of psychological classes
Change
involved
management, conflict resolution, presentation skills. And to me, my favorite class was supervisory skills, because you know that threshold of change where you go from being the worker who's getting the assignments to being the person who is supervising someone and giving them their assignments is a big change. You're not going to go and hang out and have a beer anymore with your friends. You're now their supervisor. So training people on supervisory skills was my favorite class, because
it's a change for everybody.
It is absolutely a
the people
change.
that once knew you as a peer, and now you're their boss.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
So it was all of that. And so it was a lot of fun. 2,000 employees, and so there was a lot to do.
Goodness.
And then I brought in Cal State Northridge, and we put a master's in public administration together for them. So we were giving everybody degrees there. I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was great.
So tell us about your years at Disney. You were an animator. You actually drew with a
Yes, and
pen
before I
and
do that,
cells at the...
I want to thank both of you for this program and for the work that you do outside of this program in the village, because I encounter a lot of people who have always wanted to write. In the show that I do, a lot of people say, oh, I just wish that I could write my personal or my family memoir.
Yes.
I would like to write about a historic experience that I either witnessed or I lived, or I would like to do historical fiction where I could write about someone, in a historical setting. And you encourage that, you support it, you help people understand how to get through this very iterative process and help them publish. And so this is taking someone's dream and making it a reality.
Yeah.
And I can't thank you enough for doing that for so many people.
Thank you.
So
Our pleasure.
yeah,
It's our
absolutely,
pleasure
absolutely.
to do it,
Keep on
yeah.
doing it. The work as an animator, I was thinking about it, it's kind of the reverse of writing, because as an animator, I would go to the director, and the director had the script and the character descriptions and all of that, and would hand you the scene and say, I need you to make this character do this. So you had to interpret the language of the script and the description of the character. And an example I will give is, I was working on a character in the movie Oliver and Company, and the character was voiced by Bette Midler. So we went to the voice recording of Bette Midler, and she was looking at all the storyboard images, and she was walking around, and she did this thing with her shoulders. She would just walk like that. And she was reading the lines, and then she went in to record, and she did this still with her shoulders. So the character was a poodle, so the poodle walked like this in the movie because Bette Midler did that when she was talking. Or the Scuttle in Little Mermaid. Buddy Hackett.
Flounder?
Flounder was a child voice,
Oh,
Flounder,
okay.
but Buddy Hackett voiced Scuttle, and he talked out of the side of his mouth like that. So we had to make Scuttle talk out of the side of his mouth, otherwise it wouldn't sound like Buddy Hackett.
I've noticed that with animated films even today, that the actor, you can see some of the character
Absolutely. If
traits.
you're doing your job right,
Yeah.
that character, the voice actor shows up in the character.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it has to.
And they're fun. I mean, that's adult entertainment. I love some of those
Now,
animated
what a gift.
films.
What a gift you can do that. Oh my goodness. For someone who doesn't draw, I mean, that you can watch Bette Midler walk like that, and then you can translate that to the animated face.
Yeah,
And
to
you did
start
one
somewhere.
frame at a time, you would... Shoulder up,
1/24
shoulder down.
1/24th of a second. You know what 1/24th of a second looks
goodness.
like that. Yeah, you don't really see it. You sort of sense it.
Were you
don't
working
really
on
see
that
it.
acetate that they could film?
That was the final stage when
Okay.
animated films were done, what we call traditionally.
Right.
It wasn't digital. We did pencil and paper.
Yeah.
So we had the pieces of
Just like
paper
you did.
between our fingers and on a light board, and we were drawing it, and we were flipping the paper at the same time so you can see it move. That became obsolete when the digital systems came in because it was a
Absolutely. Can you
whole-
imagine how easy it was to do it digitally than it was to frame by frame?
I think so. I think it's a whole different learning experience, though, because there are challenges inherent in
Right.
that process as well. And the whole thing is, if you don't have a good story, you can animate a good story with matchsticks if you want to, and people are going to
Yes.
believe it
Yeah,
and
yes.
love it.
Right.
But if you don't have a good story, no matter what tools you're using, it isn't going to be good.
Gila Zahlen. She was a dancer, she's an actress, she's a film producer, she's a screenwriter, and she was a literary agent. She worked with public television and CBS. She's active in the Theater Guild and Old Prose. She's the founder of a script writing group. She was on the research writing team for Civilization and the Jews, and these are just a few of her accomplishments. Welcome.
Hi there. And you
Hi.
moved all the way from Orange, New Jersey to southern Orange County, California. How'd that happen?
Orange to orange. Orange. It's not mixing oranges and apples.
That's
Right,
true. You stay
right.
for the oranges.
Right. No, we came for the warmth
Uh-huh.
because it's hard shoveling snow. You
Oh,
know.
yes.
It's cold there.
I lived in New Jersey my whole life, so
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Oh, where?
In Haddonfield, southern New Jersey, near Philadelphia.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
But you shoveled more snow. I think you were a little further north.
Yeah. Well, I lived in New York. I was brought up in New York. I was born and brought up in New York. So New Jersey was shoveling snow. New York, you didn't shovel snow.
Yes, right.
No, it snowed, but it wasn't quite as bad.
So how'd your career start, and how did you end up in Hollywood and here?
My career started as I was a professional dancer by the time I was 16.
Wow.
And writing came in with it because I belonged to 2 or 3 modern dance companies,
Oh.
and we performed at the 92nd Street Y,
Oh my.
among many other places. And
I've
I
heard of
used
that.
to write the narrations for the performances, and I also wrote articles for Dance Magazine. So,
You were the publicist, a dancer, and
I never thought of myself as a writer, but somehow they chose me. Don't ask me why. And I ended up doing all the writing for them.
Wow.
And so I was a dancer and did some choreography and did the writing, and just sort of happened.
and then your screen, you got an audition, and next thing you know, you're in Hollywood, huh?
Well, no, not exactly. I was in California because I was in a concert in Chicago, and I had my tickets to go back to New York, and I switched them to use them to go to California because my brother was living here. I also had a cousin who was a very big television writer.
Oh.
His name was Howard Rodman. And so I came to visit my cousin and my brother, got a job as a dancer actually as a choreographer for for what that at that time was the Los Angeles Ballet.
Oh, yes.
So I
yes.
choreographed for them, and then started getting acting jobs, and then ended up in dinner theater in San Francisco for a year. I mean, it just was crazy.
Wow.
I did.
Wow. Now, and you were a literary agent.
Yeah, when I was in California, my cousin taught me. I started, you know, how some actors have to, you know, wait on tables.
Sure.
Yes.
Well, instead, I did typing for writers.
Oh,
He got
okay.
me lots of jobs, because I was a very good typist. So I did typing for screenwriters or TV writers, and learned the format and everything like that, and wrote a whole script for a TV series. My cousin told me who to send it to, and I sent it to a big producer, and they kept it for about 3 months and sent it back and said no thank you. And 2 years later it appeared on television, not in my name,
Oh, dear.
as Lost in Space,
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
and that was mine. And nothing I could do about it, because I didn't meet Jules yet and didn't
You
know
didn't
any
have
lawyers.
any contract? You didn't have
Nothing.
copyright? You
Nothing.
didn't have
I had no protection.
the
I
guild? You
didn't-
didn't register it with the
No,
guild? Nothing.
who knew? I didn't know anything.
Oh,
I
my
was sort of,
goodness.
you know, dumb.
Oh.
So
Your
I just,
cousin failed you.
my cousin felt very bad.
Oh, I'm sure.
But yeah, he did. But there was nothing either of us could do about it. So
Oh, that's.
when I got back to New York, I got a job at what was called Ashley Famous Agency, which is now ICM.
Big agency.
And I started, you know, being a secretary, because I typed very well. And then little by little, I became an agent. So I was an
Literary agent or an agent for?
a literary agent.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
right.
they would submit books to you, or
Yes. Yeah.
and then you would.
and
Find
and
the
we
publisher?
would, yeah, we would find them publishers, right? And I had a few well-known clients. Worked very closely with the part of the group that was selling plays, that had plays and screenplays.
Right.
Arthur Miller clients.
my.
We had very big.
Did you have a few screenplays that people wanted to have made into books, and you would
Yes,
send them? Yeah.
Yeah, that we had also, but mostly books were books and screenplays were screenplays in those days. You know,
But the
theater.
ideas and the stories, if they worked,
People didn't send ideas to agents; they sent finished products.
right?
Yeah, and we read them, and I have to admit that we got so much stuff that I'd read 10 pages sometimes and decide yes or no.
Oh, sure.
Oh, sure. Did you accept unsolicited
And those
scripts?
days we did.
You did, yes.
They don't anymore.
No, I don't.
No.
Yeah, I
You know,
would
Michael
guess
Blake
that.
told me he had a screenplay of Dances with Wolves, but Kevin Costner told him, write into a book, we'll get some traction with it, and we'll get some funds to make a movie. And that's how it happened, actually.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's so many ways that it can
that
happen.
lightning can strike, yes.
But I have to tell you another thing, and that is you have to know someone. It's very hard to, either you have to know it or you got to do it yourself, which is why I started a production company, because I wrote a number of screenplays which people loved. We had one of them made almost 3 times. And the money fell through. And finally we decided that we were going to I wrote 3 short scripts which were done and won awards in all kinds of festivals. And I said, wait a minute, let's produce a full-length movie. You know, let's not wait for somebody else to do it. So we did.
That is
and that
quite-
was Split Ends.
You
What
hired a
an
production company with
undertaking.
all the cameras, equipment, and everything. Did you direct it?
No, that I did not do. I produced it.
Okay.
I wrote it and I produced. I put the people together, but I didn't think I was
Ready
you
for
know,
that.
I
Yeah.
love that title, Split Ends, and it. I looked at the trailer on television
Oh, did you?
on my computer the
Oh.
other evening, and well, tell us about it. It looks so interesting. It takes place in a beauty shop.
Yes.
Is it fiction or non?
Well, it's both. when my hairdresser found out that I had produced movies that had gotten awards, she said, I have a story. Everybody's got a story.
Right.
So I said, sure, you know. She said, no, I do. I said, okay, Libby, write it down. So she wrote 2 pages or 3 pages of her story, and I said, oh, this is fun. I can make a screenplay out of it. So just for the fun of it, I wrote a screenplay. We sort of worked on it together. She gave me some ideas, and we wrote this screenplay. And before you knew it, we had a director, we had some actors that had, some name that were willing to be in it. And I said, wow. And it cost, I think the whole thing cost $100,000 to make. Maybe a little more.
Wow.
Which we
Amazing.
raised in our community.
Hi, Judy.
Hi, and what have you been up to?
Absolutely nothing for the last month.
Nothing.
Hardly.
Oh,
But I do have some announcement to make.
you do? Okay.
I was a stand-in for Jeff Goldblum. And I'm allowed to announce it now. He swam with the Aquadettes in July.
Oh.
And it was top secret. Disney came in to do the shoot, and nobody was allowed to know about it. They had to wait until the show aired, and it's on Disney Plus. It's called The World According to Jeff Goldblum, and it's called Pools. Is the segment. It's
Okay.
Pool 11. So you can watch that, and the girls are in the water with him, and it's a fun thing.
How exciting. Wow.
And what
that's
have you
great.
been up to?
Well, I did a podcast, and it was so exciting. I had submitted some short stories, and I read 2 of them, and I went into the studio and...
Wait a minute. I think I know what that's all about. Let's show the video.
Oh, okay. All right. Wow. The booth and the chair.
And the chair and everything.
Wow.
You don't get to sit there, dear.
Oh,
You got to go into the
You
booth.
go into the, unless we had seismic activity, then it does, but that's, but everything should be bolted down, so. Okay, so welcome to the voiceover booth.
I love it. This is
Yeah,
great.
it's kind of homey.
Yeah.
We've done many good readings out of here.
I
so-
know. I've listened to them.
Oh, cool.
They're wonderful.
We'll put the mic more or less in this direction.
Isn't this exciting?
It is
Wow.
exciting. It's fun.
I
you know?
love it. In there.
Yeah, you talk right in there. And what we're going to do is we're going to get a sample of your voice to set levels.
So you're not going to have audio.
I don't know. Maybe I will.
Okay, Judy, we're rolling. I'll count you down. 5, 4, 3, 2.
We'll see when I edit this thing.
Well, it's so nice of you to do this. The writing group has been meeting for 12 years. That's the only name we have. No cutesy titles, simply the writing gate. Pick up. The writing group has been meeting for 12 years. That's the only name we have. No cutesy titles, simply the writing group. Writing group, written by Judy Saxon, read by Judy Saxon.
Great.
The writing group has been meeting for 12 years. That's the only name we have. No cutesy titles, simply the writing group. Oh, thank you for doing that. I love it.
I had a lot of fun
Thank you.
doing it too.
Oh.
That's my video club coming out. You know, we need to do
Oh,
that.
thank you, and thank you. Well, thank you to the video club too for
And we had somebody do the edit. You know who that was?
Tell
Lucy
me.
Parker.
Oh, she's great, isn't she? Oh,
she's
thank you,
wonderful.
Lucy, and thank you, Charlie. That's very exciting to see that.
And what's happening here today?
Well, what's also exciting is we have a wonderful poet with us, Robbie Nestor. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She has her master's degree from Hollins University. She has her MFA from UCI Irvine and her PhD from UCI Irvine. She has taught writing and composition in various colleges and universities for years, and I understand now she is retired. She's had her many poems, essays, and reviews published in a number of publications. Welcome, Robbie.
Hi, Robbie.
Hi, nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. So how in the world did you end up being a poet? Did you start in 6th grade writing poetry?
No, I started before I could write.
You'll have to explain that.
My mother's friend was babysitting for me. I was about 2. And my mother occasionally did secretarial work, so she had one of those old typewriters that you have to pound on.
Oh, right.
And she let me play on it, foolishly. So apparently, I asked her friend who was babysitting for me to take down a story or a poem that I dictated to her, and she kept it.
You're kidding.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I remember in like 2nd or 3rd grade, it was the first time I read publicly at school.
Oh my goodness, you were so brave.
I would, someone once gave me 50 cents to go away because I was always talking, and I would talk to anybody sort of randomly. So I didn't mind getting up in front of everyone and reading, but no one could hear me. There was no microphone.
Now, I know a little about your personal background because I read a poem of yours, and in that poem you described how the elevated train wheels start to squeak at the Susquehanna station. And I knew right away, this lady is from Philadelphia.
Yes, I spent my first 23 years or so in Philadelphia. My father was born in Philadelphia, too. His mom came from Russia when she was about 12. So, I'm born and raised a Philadelphia person.
And how did you get to California?
Well, I couldn't wait to get out. Philadelphia's a tough town.
Is it?
Yeah, and I got tired of being thrown down the stairs into the trash can in high school and that sort of stuff.
Not really.
Yeah.
Really? That really happened?
Yeah.
You were thrown down the stairs and put in a trash can?
Almost every day.
Almost every day?
My whole junior year of, yeah.
Robbie!
That's a terrible story.
Yeah. So, if you're different and if you're vulnerable, then, you've kind of had it. And the culture in Philadelphia is such that nobody really tries to shut that stuff down.
Oh.
In fact, I remember I was in the famous Wiseman documentary, High School, that you may have heard of. It was my junior or senior class that he filmed in that film, which you can probably see online somewhere. Mm-hmm. And it was supposed to be the best public high school in the country, but really it was scandalously bad for the most part. I mean, we had any language you wanted to study. I studied French, Russian, and Swahili, but
oh my goodness!
And they had computers before anybody else did, and they had a space lab. Mm-hmm. But the teaching was awful,
it was
and
dreadful.
The administration was worse, and they had cops who would think nothing of planting drugs in people's locker and beating people up, and sort of dropouts from Frank Rizzo's police department.
So how did you get to California?
Goodness.
Just up
I
and
went
left?
to Hollins
Yes.
to get away from my parents' house and also from Philadelphia in general. And
18, 19, did you just fly away?
18, 19 the year? No, I'm not that old.
No, in 18 or 19, you just spread your wings?
Yeah, well, I was a junior, so I transferred. I spent my first couple of years at college in Rutgers, Camden, New Jersey, riding the Lindenwald speed line.
Know it well.
And then...
Went there.
Yeah. Another tough place.
Another tough campus. You're right about that.
Wow.
But, some teachers recognized my ability, which didn't happen in K-12.
Philadelphia.
Yeah, no, it didn't. So they recommended me, and I went off to Hollins because they were famous for a writing program. They were one of the first writing programs besides Iowa.
Absolutely.
Well, we are going behind the scenes today, and our guest is Dave DeSantis, and he is a production coordinator here at Village Television. And David is from Redwood City, California. He went to Mercer High School in Washington. He plays music, writes songs besides his work here. He said, "I always need to be doing something creative." Welcome, Dave.
Thank you.
Hi, Dave. I hope you're a little nervous. You got to be a little nervous when you're on this side of the camera.
It's a little bit different. I've done it a few times on a couple other shows, so
Right.
but normally it's like a small little segment, and this is like.
Oh, you're carrying the whole show today. I don't want to put you on edge, but believe me, the guests make the show, right,
Yeah.
Judy?
No pressure. No pressure at all.
You guys do great. It's always a joy working with you guys behind the
great.
camera, so this is really nice.
Keep it
Thank
up.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
We could do that for a half an hour.
Yeah.
Well, so now you're from Redwood City. How did you get up to Mercer Island?
So my parents got divorced when I was about 4, and I stayed in the Bay Area, and then my mom wanted to do something other than what she was doing. She was like working at a lawyer's office. She was very involved in the music and playing music, and one day she was at a music store and she was picking out a bass, and this guy was like, "Oh, can I help you, sweetie, honey?" And was like just kind of degrading. And she got all fired up and she said, "I'm going to start a magazine for women in rock and roll." So she did, and that kind of started in the Bay Area.
Wow.
And
that's right.
she found that Seattle was at the time was the place to be for
Right.
music. And
Tell me about the magazine. Was it a national magazine, a regional magazine? Was
it was, I believe it was
printed every month or what?
Yeah, it was a monthly publication.
Uh-huh.
And then she put together a couple of conferences, and she was
Oh my.
yeah, she was very, very involved in the music scene. And now she lives in Austin, and she's kind of left that world, but she still has a lot of friends that are still in that.
So she would interview rock and roll stars, women in rock and roll.
yeah, like
Stevie Nicks.
I don't think she ever interviewed Stevie Nicks, but she did form a pretty good friendship with Courtney Love.
Oh.
So that was kind of interesting.
Right.
She'd call my house every once in a while. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Ann and Nancy Wilson from Heart.
Oh my.
So that was very cool. Yeah, a lot of people, not just performers, but authors and journalists and people of that nature.
People
as
writing
well,
about
yeah.
music and
Yeah.
such.
We had a really good friend actually, and this relates to your show, who wrote a book called Heavier Than Heaven about Kurt Cobain. And
Oh,
he actually
wow.
wrote a couple books, and it was on New York Times bestseller list. And
Oh my.
my name's in the acknowledgments.
Oh.
Yeah, that was my little claim to fame. But
That's such an innovative thing to do, a music for women in rock and roll. Yeah.
yeah.
Yay for the women.
Wait a minute. Some guys in the business too are pretty nice and neat, aren't you? thinking?
Yes, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. So then you became interested in music, I'm sure, because of your mom.
Yeah, my mom and my dad. My dad plays guitar. He started playing drums at a really young age. I think he was like 14 or 15. He picked it up, and at his high school, he went to school with Neil Sean, who played in guitar in Journey. He still plays with Journey.
Oh, okay.
And they formed a band together, and then he went on to do other stuff. Him and my mom both being musicians definitely was a heavy influence. And before I learned how to play, I would hang out with my dad and his friends, and they would all be playing, and I'd have a harmonica and just they'd give me a solo, So that's kind of how it started. And then I got really into like hip hop and like dance music and stuff like that. And my mom gave me a option for my birthday. She said, you can either have a turntable, a set of turntables, learn how to DJ, or a guitar. I chose the turntables. She was really upset. So I did that for a couple years, and then I don't know, something clicked when I was hanging out with my dad. I'm pretty sure if I could trace it back, it was to when he showed me Hell Freezes Over, the Eagles DVD, their whole like concert performance, and I was like, I want to learn how to do that. Like that looks cool. And so I started playing guitar and just kind of continued to hone my skills.
Now, who taught you? Did your father teach you the guitar, or you just?
A little bit. I'm kind of self-taught. I did take lessons, but I don't remember how to read music. I took piano lessons at a really young age, but that didn't really stick with me.
You have to do that. Mom makes you, right?
Yeah, I think everyone took piano lessons at one point or another, right? But I have a really good ear. Like I can hear something and pick it up like relatively quickly, even if it's the first time I'm hearing it.
Oh, how wonderful.
So that's it makes it really fun to play with people that you never have played with before, and like you just play a couple chords and just kind of keep
jam
riffing
with them and
yeah.
sort of
And
thing.
Nick, who also is a producer here, he plays drums, and I have a friend named Cameron who plays guitar. So the three of us get together every once in a while, and music is kind of a universal language.
Yes, yes.
You don't have to meet somebody to know like their style. You could kind of pick up anything just by playing together.
Well, let me tell you about our guest today. Her name is Sonia Marsh. Sonia has written 3 books. One is called Freeways. I think it's on there, Freeways to Flip-Flops. She's written 2 anthologies, and what a life. And she's still having all these adventures. She was born in Denmark. She has lived in Africa, Paris, the UK, the United States. She considers herself a citizen of the world. She joined the Peace Corps. In 2004, she chucked everything. They sold their home, sold their belongings, and moved to Belize, 3 sons and her husband, and she wrote about it. Welcome, Sonia.
Thank you so much.
Hi,
I'm
Sonia.
very happy to be here. I was here, I don't know how many years ago, but this is my second time.
Yes, right.
So thank you for inviting me.
You keep adding to your resume. We have to keep having you back.
This is good. This is good.
I know.
Yeah.
I should have said where you were. You were in Africa with the Peace Corps.
Yes, I was in a country called Lesotho, which is the mountain kingdom. It's a tiny country that looks like a soccer ball, stuck right inside South Africa.
And pronounce the name of the country slow and easy.
Lesotho. It's spelled Lesotho, but they pronounce it Lesotho,
Lesotho.
not Lesotho.
Oh, that's the way it looks like it would be
Yes.
pronounced, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But going back to your first travels, we're still
Yeah.
to refresh our audience about what made you move from Orange County to Belize.
Yes. So we were living in Lake Forest in Orange County, and we had 3 reasons to move. What the main reason was I wanted to take my children away from the entitlement attitude that children had in those days, and show them how other people live with less. And we picked Belize because they speak English, and my husband at the time didn't speak any Spanish or any other language, so it was an English-speaking country. The second reason was my son wasn't doing too well in school, and so we figured that we would take him away from peer pressures and move over there. And I was ready for adventure. I'm always ready for adventure. That's why I call myself gutsy woman, always traveling. And then there was another reason, and that is that my husband at the time didn't want to commute, and the long commutes to LA, wanted a simple life, so we said, let's try it. And so we went to Belize.
Takes a lot of courage.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is gutsy.
Well, actually, we sold everything, so there was no way we could come back. But we did.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's like burning the bridge, right?
Yeah.
You cross over
Yeah.
again.
Get rid of
Wow.
everything in your life and simplify.
I just can't even imagine that.
You know
Selling
what?
everything.
I have to tell you that once you've done it, right now, I can tell you all I have is 2 suitcases in a garage. I'm renting a room. I'm back from the Peace Corps. And it's really a freeing attitude to have in life, is that you can pick up and go anywhere.
Yes.
And I'm not one that likes to have a ton of stuff around me, so I like the freedom of moving.
There's a minimalist for you. Yes, 2 suitcases.
Yes, yeah, I enjoy that. So
Wow.
anyway,
Well, I read on the internet when I was researching before our interview that you can pack in 1 day and move. So I believe that with 2
You know what?
suitcases in the garage.
give me an airline ticket and I'll be at the airport in 2 hours, if I could get there in 2 hours with LA traffic. But otherwise, Yeah, I just have a thirst for exploring new places. I find that, life becomes so much more meaningful when you can see new cultures and everything. And 2 weeks, I was just in Africa, 2 weeks in Rwanda and Kenya and Tanzania. In a way, it feels like 6 months because you pack so much into it. And you see so many different things that you would never experience here.
Oh, yes.
And then, of course, we can write about it and blog about it.
Right,
And
yes.
make new stories.
Yes.
That's
yes.
what's interesting.
Yes.
So,
Tell us about the first book you wrote. You wrote it when you were a year back from Belize?
I had no experience with writing at all. I kept a journal.
Oh,
like
great.
you said, every day I wrote, but I did it on my laptop because I'm not very good at handwriting. And that way you can correct your mistakes. So I would journal, but what I think what made this book maybe more lively and interesting is the dialogue. Whenever I heard people speaking, I was fortunate, I had time. I would run to my computer and write down the phrases that I heard, or my children speaking, so that I had their voices rather than trying to remember it. So what was it? What did he say to me? And that made it much easier to make it come alive because it was authentic. It was exactly what they said.
Yes.
So I know a lot of people write memoirs based on their past, but if you're going to have an experience today,
Yes, yes.
then I think that would be a good way to do it. Like even they say you go to a coffee shop, you can write down what you hear people say.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
And it's a different experience 10 years,
Yeah.
20 years later when you're writing about it. You can't.
You can't remember
No.
exactly.
No, oh no.
You should run around with a little tape recorder, though.
Yeah,
That would save you
exactly.
from running to your laptop.
Yeah.
Welcome, Brett.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you so much. Happy to have you. We want to talk about your writing basically, though, if we can, because we've talked about your movies before and some other shows, but I really am interested. How did you get started and why? I think around 2000 was your first book.
Yeah, well, how I got started writing, when I was a very young actor, we often had to take second jobs just to eat.
Yeah.
It's still the same for young actors.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
And one of the jobs that I had was working as a bodyguard. And one of my first bodyguard jobs was for Linda Darnell.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
She was afraid her husband was going to come and get her.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, I never met her, actually. I was in her house guarding the door and stuff.
Right.
And while I was there, I was sitting in the library, and there's a big library almost like this. I don't know if you've seen.
Yes.
And I saw some Bud Schulberg books.
Oh, yes.
One was The Disenchanted, which was about how Hollywood
Right.
eats its own.
Yes.
And what was the other one? Oh, What Makes Sammy Run?
Oh.
And I thought, I can do this.
So did you
And
start?
maybe not as well as Bud Schulberg, but
Yeah.
so that's when I got interested in writing.
But you didn't start writing then. Your acting career took off and you became very
Yeah.
busy for a long time, thank goodness.
Yeah. But then I did some script writing,
Did you?
not much. And then when I went to Europe, I started rewriting scripts they were giving me, because I get these scripts in translations from Italian, which was
Oh.
Oh, my.
which was impossible to play in English. For
Yes.
example, the best way I can describe it is, if an Italian says "I love you," he has to give you 10 reasons why. An American says "I love you," and
That's it. Right.
so
got
they'd
it.
have all this extra dialogue that we'd have to cut back into. So I started rewriting scripts, and then westerns, and then came to. I might as well tell you the story about West of Hell. West of
Yes.
Hell is my latest novel.
Right.
It's out now.
West of Hell, yes.
And that started. You're a writer.
yes.
Ideas come from God knows where. I'm sitting one day listening to the Beatles version of Michelle.
Oh, yes.
Michelle,
My
my belle.
bell.
Bump, 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 horse, bump, bump, riding along. No, okay, I've got a horse riding along. Now I have to put some guy on it. Bump, 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 bump. Pretty soon, well, he has to be going somewhere and doing something. And from there, this story evolved.
Okay.
But it evolved originally as a screenplay.
Oh.
And I was going to Berlin. I had the outline of the story on the seat beside me in my car, and I was driving through East Berlin, and I went to the border between East Germany and West Germany, and the East German cops were not very nice. No. They called them Vopos. And this cop was looking, he had this long baton, and he was checking my car and checking things, and he saw this script, and he said, "What's that?" Oh, and it was translated into German.
Oh.
Oh.
And the German translation, I think, was Jenseits von Hölle, which means, I think, the other side of hell.
Hell, yeah.
Well, he thought it was something about East German,
Germany.
West German politics.
Right.
So he got really nasty. And he was a very officious little guy. And and I was saying, it's a cowboy, my German, Western. And then I said, Winnetou. Now, Winnetou for Germans is as popular as the Lone Ranger here.
Oh.
Winnetou was a very famous Indian, fictional Indian. And he said, Winnetou? Oh, Wilde West, oh, Wild West, he
Wild
said.
West.
And a big smile, and off we went.
She's written a wonderful book called Miracle People. It's an inspiring anthology of differently abled people. Welcome, Sue.
Hi, Sue.
Thank you. Hi, Charlie. Hi, Judy.
Hi. So where do we start?
We'll start with her feeding the chickens and
Oh.
the turkeys. I want to know, how did that all happen, and where were you born and raised?
Yeah, I was born in Linwood, California, and grew up in the Compton area, Dominguez Hills, and we had a little 5-acre plot of land. We had all kinds of animals. So there were 4 of us, 2 older brothers and my adorable little sister, and we had to get up early and feed all the animals before we went to school.
That's like unheard of now. And what happened to that land now? Is it
Now it's all industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we drove out a few years ago and looked at it.
But when you think back on that rural life, was that a happy thought of growing up that way? And I'm sure a lot of your kids in school didn't have that experience.
Years ago, we were all freer as kids. Mom said, go out and do your work and come back for dinner, or, and my mother was a little more controlling than a lot of mothers, but we spent the night a lot at our friend Linda's, and her mom, we could roam the hills all night long, and her mother didn't care. So we got into some kinds of trouble sometimes. One I want to tell you about, there was a seminary nearby where young men went to become priests. They had a swimming pool. They invited the boys to go swimming, not the girls.
Oh.
So one night my sister and I think I was 11, so she was 7, and we got our friend and we went to the seminary, sneaked over the fence, went swimming. When I dove in the pool, we could hear footprints, so we jumped the fence and ran down the hill and went back home.
Adventurous soul, huh?
Yes.
Wow.
It was great.
You were, yeah. How times have changed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you don't see kids outside much.
No, not at night especially.
Not at night, yeah, especially.
Well, we want to talk about your book and your
Okay.
special friends that you have, are Miracle People. And where did the idea come from for the book in the first place?
My husband has had MS since he was 18 years old, and we've been married almost 24 years. About a year ago, at 3 o'clock in the morning, I hear him hobbling back from the bathroom, grabbing onto things that he hangs onto, getting himself in the bed, picking up his legs, putting his legs in the bed. It's not easy for him. And just right then I thought, let's write a book about the people we know that are differently abled. We know a lot of people living in the village and outside the village. So we contacted a lot of people and they agreed to tell us their stories.
Now, did they write them down? Did they then how did that, or did you take a tape recorder when you interviewed them?
It was about half and half. Like Dave is blind, so he couldn't do that. So I went over to his home with my laptop.
Okay.
He told me the story and I wrote it up. And then, you know, it went back and forth a couple of times to make sure it was the way he wanted it. I wanted to be sure these stories were told in their words.
First person.
Yes.
We didn't want the English teacher changing everything. So there were
Right.
several people who I wrote it up. I mean, they told me their stories.
Okay.
So, yeah.
But basically, they're personal essays of their.
Absolutely,
Life
their
is there.
their words. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, it is inspiring.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very inspired by these people. They don't complain. One thing I noticed when we were taping them last week, they're all very educated
Yes.
and very willing to share their stories in the hope that they will inspire other people.
And that's the modus operandi why they did that in the first place.
Right.
is
I
to
would
help
imagine
others.
when you get diagnosed with Parkinson's or something,
Yeah. It's a
that
shock.
you need a support group, you know.
Well, and I'm interested in now. Do you lead a support group in your home, or where are the support groups, like churches or?
Well, you know, I find with these people, husbands, wives, maybe their church groups. With Michael, his dog is very supportive, and all of these people seem to have family around them.
Let's talk a little bit about Michael, about his story. It's
I
just
love
one
Michael.
of them.
Yeah. Michael was kind of tackled by another young man when he was 18. Instantly broke his neck. And as Michael tells his story, lying there, being very aware, he was completely paralyzed. He said, I know if I'm going to heal, I must forgive.
Wow.
And he said to the young man, I forgive you. And he's just a miracle.
That's huge.
He was told by the doctors, you will never walk again. You will not have children. And he just said, you just watch me, doctor.
Oh.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
he is amazing. And he has 3 grandchildren.
Wow.
That's amazing.
So,
too.
yes, he has a beautiful daughter.
How did you find the people then? Some with the support group that Richard's in?
Now, Kathy and Jack have been friends of ours for 30 years. And they're the ones that made Richard and I move to Laguna Woods Village.
And Kathy is the one, just to give a brief, what
She's
happened?
very small. Kathy was born with a defect in her leg, and that leg didn't grow how it should. So she had a lot of treatments as a child, spent a lot of time in the hospital. She had a very supportive family.
Yes.
And when she was about 14, they took about 4 inches out of her other leg.
Can you imagine?
I can't imagine.
I can't, yeah.
But again, she has a lot of support with her family and friends.
And she hiked.
Doesn't complain.
She did hiking.
Yeah.
So that was how you met.
Oh,
those-
yes, I got off the track.
Actually, I met Kathy in Huntington Beach at our spiritual center about 30 years ago. And then we met our husbands there.
Oh my.
Oh.
Yeah, we went to each other's weddings.
Oh.
Several of the people in the book, Marilyn Stark, Hardy, Ritzma, they were in a pool class, a pool exercise class with us. And then of course Doug Richardson, what an angel. He has Parkinson's. He had a stroke at 17 and then Parkinson's.
Yes.
And he lives with his mother and his dog, his little dog, and there's just a lot of love.
When you're writing, tend to leave out the things the readers will want to skip.
That's great. That's
Whatever
great.
those may
I
be.
know. You got to figure that out ahead of time.
Great.
You have one, dear?
I do. This is by George Eliot. It's never too late to be what you might have been.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's.
we're going to have to say goodbye.
That's
Thank you,
good.
Cindy. This
Thank
is
you
Oh,
for
thank
joining
you
us.
for
You
having
are
me in
wonderful.
today. This is so fun.
Oh, thank
We'll
you.
do it again next week.
All right, if they'll have us.
And thank you for watching the Right Now Show. I'm Judy Saxon.
And I'm Charlie Redner. See you next time.